You know, it's so easy to just slap a label on a customer. But what if we could go deeper? Today, we're going beyond those simple labels. We're going to talk about who customers are, sure, but also what they do, and the real secret sauce, why they do it.
Okay, so let's take a look at two people. Meet Sarah and meet Jen. Now on paper, you'd swear they're twins. I mean, look at this. Same age, same income, they live in the same area, they even shop for groceries every week. So you'd think, hey, one marketing message should work for both of them, right? Easy peasy.
Well, not so fast. Because if you actually peek into their shopping carts, you see a totally different story. Sarah's cart? It's full of those premium organic brands. She really cares about sustainability, and her choices show it. And Jen? Oh, Jen is a pro. She's a savvy bargain hunter. Phone out, coupons ready to go. For her, it's all about getting the absolute best value for her money. All of a sudden, that one-size-fits-all message? Yep, it doesn't look so smart anymore, does it?
So this brings up a huge question for any business out there, right? If your basic data can't even tell these two people apart, how in the world are you supposed to market to them effectively? How do you talk to Sarah about her values without making Jen feel like you're way out of her price range? Well, that is the puzzle we are going to solve today.
All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to peel back the layers of the customer, kind of like an onion, from the outside in. We'll start with demographics, then dig into behavior, get to the core with psychographics, see how that becomes a real strategy, and finally, we'll wrap it all up with your new marketing lens. Okay, let's kick things off. We're starting with that outermost layer, demographics. This is really just about the who, the basic straightforward facts you can find out about your customers. So the model we're going to use to think about this is called a nested approach. The best way to picture it? Think of those Russian nesting dolls. You've got the big one on the outside, and you open it up, and there's another one inside, and another, and another. We're going to do the exact same thing. Start with that big, obvious outer layer and work our way in deeper and deeper until we get to that tiny, super insightful doll right at the center.
And that outer layer? It's all the classic stuff. We're talking industry, company size, age, gender, income, where someone lives. Look, this info is easy to get, and it's a decent place to start. But as we just saw with Sarah and Jen, it barely scratches the surface. It only tells you a tiny piece of the whole story. All right, time to crack open that first doll. Let's peel back that demographic layer and go one step deeper. We're shifting from just who people are to what they actually do. Welcome to the layer of behavior.
Now, this is where things start to get really interesting. The picture gets way clearer because we're asking better questions. Like, is this person a heavy user of our stuff, or do they just dabble? Are they super loyal to our brand, or do they jump around all the time? This is where we start to see the difference. We see Jen's price sensitivity and her careful planning, and we see Sarah's shopping patterns are driven by her values, not just the price tag. This layer shows us how people actually act out there in the real world.
Okay, here we go. We're heading for the very center of the onion, the smallest nesting doll. We've covered who and what. Now it's time for the million-dollar question. Why? This is the realm of psychographics, and let me tell you, this is where you find the insights that can literally change the game.
So what exactly are psychographics? In a nutshell, it's about understanding what makes people tick. It's all about those deep-down psychological drivers, their attitudes, their hopes, their core values. It's not about how old they are or how much money they make. It's about what truly, genuinely motivates them to act. And listen, this isn't just some abstract academic idea. Look at this. This model comes from the hospitality industry, and it's brilliant. It's how they map out that incredibly complex and personal choice we all make when we decide to go on vacation. They're trying to get to the real why behind the trip. So the model breaks it down into two main forces. First, you've got push factors. Think of these as things coming from inside you. That feeling of being totally burnt out that just screams, I need to get away. That's a push. Then you have pull factors. These are the things out in the world that grab your attention, that pull you in. It could be a gorgeous ad for a sunny beach, or maybe all your friends are talking about their ski trip. Those are pulls.
Now, once those forces are in play, our brains start to process them. A motivation is that big general feeling, like, I just want some adventure. But a preference is way more specific, something you've learned about yourself. For instance, knowing you'd rather be in the mountains than on a beach. See the difference? That's how our minds take a vague urge and start turning it into an actual plan.
And what this quote here really nails is that motivations are the engine behind everything. They're the behavioral impetus. That's just a fancy way of saying they're the spark that gets us moving towards a goal and ultimately shapes what we decide to do. The takeaway is huge. If you can figure out someone's motivation, you've found the root cause of why they buy.
Okay, this is great. We've dug deep and we've found the why. We now get that Sarah is driven by sustainability and Jen is all about value. But so what? I mean, how does a business take that amazing insight and actually turn it into a strategy that works?
Well, one fantastic tool for this is something called the Directional Policy Matrix. And yeah, I know, it looks a bit complex at first glance, but trust me, the idea behind it is super logical. It's a way for a company to look at all their different customer groups, the Sarahs and the Jens of their world, and make a smart decision about where to put their time, money, and energy.
It all boils down to two simple questions. On the one hand, you have segment attractiveness. You're asking, is this group of customers even worth going after? Is the group big enough? Can we make money from them? Is it a growing market? Then, on the other hand, you have our business abilities. This is where you have to be honest with yourself and ask, are we actually any good at serving these people? Is our product the right fit? Does our brand even make sense to them?
And the process is just common sense, really. Step 1, you figure out how attractive each group is. Step 2, you take a hard look at what your own business is capable of. Step 3, you plot them on the grid. So let's say a grocery store plots their sustainable Sarahs and their value Jens. Where those dots land tells you exactly what to do. For a fancy organic market, Sarah is their leader. They should go all in. But for a discount chain, Jen is their leader, and they should probably just disinvest from trying to win over Sarah. It makes the path forward crystal clear.
All right, so we've taken quite a journey, haven't we? From the easy surface level stuff right down to the very core of why people do what they do. Let's pull it all together now and talk about how this gives you a completely new lens to look through.
At the end of the day, this whole nested approach, this whole idea of peeling back the layers, is a really simple but powerful progression. You start with who they are, you move on to what they do, and you end up at the holy grail, why they buy.
And this chart here, it lays out the big trade-off perfectly. Demographic data, the who, is super easy to get, but honestly, it's often the least useful. As you start digging deeper into behavior, and especially into psychographics, yeah, it gets harder to find that information. But the value of the insight you get, it's not just a little better, it's exponentially more powerful. It's the key to really connecting with your customers.
So I'll leave you with this one question to think about. Now that you can see these different layers, the who, the what, and the all-important why, how is that going to change the way you look at the market and, maybe more importantly, the way you look at your own customers?